Can Ukraine ever truly be safe? This is the stark question that hangs over every discussion about ending the war. As the world watches, a new diplomatic push is underway, but its success hinges on a critical, often overlooked principle. We cannot talk about where Ukraine's borders will be drawn until we first establish how Ukraine's existence will be secured. The cart of territorial integrity cannot be placed before the horse of national security. Security must lead. This sequence is not just diplomatic preference, it is the key to unlocking durable peace. True peace is more than a pause in fighting. It is the presence of security. It is the presence of security. Only then can communities rebuild and leaders negotiate from strength. The urgency has been amplified by President Trump's recent flurry of diplomatic activity. His approach raises an essential tactical question. What order should talks follow? President Trump's recent back-to-back meetings, first with Putin, then with Zelensky, signal a shift. He is attempting to broker a deal that has eluded the world for years. The strategy separates the two most contentious issues, security and territory. Lumping everything into one all-or-nothing negotiation creates a zero-sum game and deadlock. It becomes political theater. Instead, a two-track approach. First, secure Ukraine's future, then negotiate borders. Putin seeks land as legacy, territory as leverage and buffer against the West. Zelensky fights for his nation's survival and needs ironclad assurances. Any ceasefire without robust security guarantees could be a pause for Russia to rearm. Zelensky needs an unbreakable commitment from allies. Separate talks allow candid exchanges and shuttle diplomacy to build a deal, starting with the issue that must be resolved first, guaranteeing Ukraine will not stand alone again. The proposal? 2 separate negotiation tracks. One for security guarantees, one for territorial disputes. This is pragmatic for a complex problem. Trying to solve everything at once overloads the agenda and forces bad trades. Separate talks let each issue be addressed on its own terms. The first track must be security. It would involve Ukraine, the United States, and major European powers. The goal, a binding multilateral security pact. It would specify military support, economic assistance, intelligence sharing, and automatic triggers for assistance, not just consultations. Holding these talks without Russia is not an oversight. It is necessary. Moscow's inclusion would dilute commitments and insert loopholes. The aim is to make Ukraine militarily formidable and intertwined with Western defense structures. Forward deployments, air defenses, long-term training, and arms production, all part of the package. Faced with these costs, Moscow would see any future action as triggering direct confrontation with the West. History shows what makes security agreements succeed and what makes them fail. NATO's Article 5 is the gold standard. An attack on one is an attack on all. Contrast that with the Budapest Memorandum, promises on paper without enforcement. When Russia invaded in 2014 and again in 2022, those assurances proved hollow. So what would credible guarantees include? A Kiev Security Compact, a multilateral treaty outside NATO but modeled on Article 5. Automatic triggers for military assistance and forward deployment of allied forces on Ukrainian soil. Integrated air and missile defenses operated jointly with Western partners. Long-term training, intelligence sharing, and increased arms production to harden Ukraine's defenses. Russia cannot be party to these security negotiations. It is the source of the threat. Inviting Moscow would create loopholes that render commitments meaningless. The goal is a deterrent so clear and automatic that aggression becomes unthinkable. Not to provoke, but to make peace the only logical option. A formal, legally binding treaty with teeth. That is what Ukraine demands and deserves. The path to lasting peace is not a magic formula at one grand summit. It is patient, deliberate, and correctly sequenced. By tackling security first, we change the strategic landscape. A secure Ukraine can negotiate from strength, not desperation. Borders then become a political negotiation, difficult but solvable. Communities rebuild, children return to school, economic life resumes. For Russia, a unified West and persistent sanctions make a frozen conflict costly. That changes the Kremlin's calculus and raises the appeal of compromise. The final borders may not be perfect, but backed by international guarantees, they can hold. You cannot negotiate the layout of a house while it is on fire. First, extinguish the flames. It is a long road, but by taking the steps in the right order, we can move from darkness into light. Security first, then borders. That is the only realistic path to a durable peace for Ukraine. Subscribe for more in-depth analysis.